Welcome to Mind Your Business, the podcast that goes straight to the core of what drives entrepreneur success. I'm your host, Max Fortune, and with over 30 years of experience building businesses and guiding others to do the same, each week we explore the mindsets, strategies, and real-life stories that distinguish thriving entrepreneurs. Try to deliver the candid insights you need to elevate your business and to reach new heights. So if you tuned in and received just one piece of advice that you can use to make your business journey a little easier, make sure you like, follow, and subscribe to Mind Your Biz Expert on YouTube or whatever platform you're watching or listening to this podcast on. It's a little thing that goes a long way to keep the podcast going, so you can just pause and do it. All right. Today, I'm joined by Tina Wallace, the visionary founder of Onyx Gold Group, a purpose-driven consulting and advisory firm helping women leaders and values-based professionals align purpose with strategy to create profitable, impactful legacies. Now, through her ACTS framework, advisory, consulting, teaching, and speaking, Tina provides strategic guidance, executive coaching, and transformative education designed to sharpen messaging, strengthen authority, and drive sustainable profitability. So, if you're ready to build from alignment, not hustle, this is the episode that you want to tune into. But before we dive into our conversation with Tina Wallace, let's set the stage with our Mindset Minute. Now, this is where we take a moment to focus on a powerful nugget of wisdom designed to help you push through the challenges of the week. It's a quick mental reset to keep you sharp, motivated, and ready to tackle whatever comes your way. So let's get into it. Here's the mindset shift. Busy is not a business strategy. A lot of entrepreneurs confuse motion with momentum. They post, network, attend events, and say yes to everything, then wonder why revenue is inconsistent. This week, I want you to ask yourself 3 questions. What is my most profitable lane? Second, what am I doing that doesn't move the needle? And third, what would I stop doing if I valued my time like my money? Now, alignment is when your actions, message, and offers match the outcome you want. That's when your business gets lighter and more profitable. Now, Tina, you built a business around alignment and authority, not hustle. So let's start with your origin story. What did you see in the marketplace that made you say, women don't need more motivation, they need a clearer strategy?
Well, first of all, a lot of times women are coming out of corporate, and corporate teaches us to hustle, right? And so in the hustle, we're chasing. But as women, we're supposed to attract.
Wow, right? Yeah.
As women. So we don't work with the masculine energy, we work with our feminine energy. And through that, we start with who we are, our purpose. And when we start with our purpose, then the doing comes out of that, and the having comes out of the doing, versus the other way around.
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. That is great. That is a great answer for that. So let me ask you this. When you got started, what problem did Onyx Gold Group exist to solve, and what was missing in the market before you kind of launched?
Well, I think what's missing in the marketplace is a space for women to grow their businesses, again, in that feminine energy. And so when we set up our businesses, a lot of times, we're setting them up coming out of a space where we're taught to, like I said, chase. We're taught that we have to hustle. A lot of us have families. A lot of us have other obligations. And so in the way that we set our businesses up, we set them up as operators. And we don't think about how we're going to grow and scale our businesses because we're always in the doing.
Right.
We're always in the doing. So through that, one of the things that I teach my clients is you have to step away from the doing so that you can actually see what the business is doing. And if you cannot step away from your business for a month, you are the business.
You know what? That's a great self-assessment. It is definitely hard, and honestly, it's something that I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs. I've been an entrepreneur for a long, long time, and it's not easy to do that. You know, especially if you're just getting started, you're just going. You're wearing all the hats, and it's very hard to shift from going from working on your business or working in it to on it. You know, that is definitely a challenge for most people. And so a lot of your messaging is about alignment and aligning yourself. And so what I'd like you to do, kind of like give us your definition of what alignment is in real business terms, and how does someone know if they're kind of like misaligned?
So when you're misaligned, you're attracting the opposite of what you want. So the people that are coming into your space, the deals that are presented, when you're aligned and you're in the flow, you are literally attracting the things that you want. And so I even think of, you talked about the solopreneur, and that's that's who wears all the hats. But when we create channel partners for our business, because you're in business for yourself, but you don't have to be in business by yourself.
Agreed.
So one of the things I teach is to create channel partners, people that are aligned with your vision and understand what you're trying to do in the marketplace, and are willing to basically barter in some way for the things that you need. And so it may be definitely money involved in it, but maybe it's, for instance, a website developer, and that website developer charges $2,500, to develop websites. But your client needs websites. So you come up with some price that you're going to give them business. They're going to do what you need done for your clients at a lower price. Okay. And so then in that difference, now you have a place to make money, right?
Okay.
So you create these partnerships so that you're not doing everything. So that's what I teach women. I have an organization called Healthy, Wealthy, Wise, and out of that we make sister circles. Okay. And in those sister circles, we're putting women together that can help each other move the needle. So I will have a realtor, a mortgage person, a estate planning attorney, all the things that someone who is in that space of growing their financial wealth will need. If you buy a home, you usually need some type of life insurance possibly to cover. If you buy a home, you need a mortgage. If you buy a home, it's probably time to do an estate plan if you don't have one. So in all of those things, the sister circles work together and they share clients. Now they're building together. And the thing is, now they're not alone because they're supporting each other. They're checking in each week, talking about their wins, talking about, the help that they need. Once a month, those ladies get together, and whoever needs the most that month, they focus on her. Okay. So whether that's social media post, whether that's, more likes, whatever it is, more clients, that's her turn. So we have this organization where we literally help each other.
Wow, that sounds amazing. And no men can join this group.
No men allowed. Not for this one.
I got it. It sounds like, but it's funny. I sometimes feel misaligned. I think anybody you can get misaligned with something. And so no, this sounds very good. And I'm sure it's going to help a lot of people. It's one of the reasons why I do this is I always love to talk to other entrepreneurs, and it's just always amazing to just to kind of see how common certain themes are and how different people work to solve those things. So I try to kind of, when I do this show, I try to interview people and get people to talk about the good and the challenges out there, because there's challenges out there. And I think sometimes, I think even with social media, we don't see the challenges. We just see somebody's looking like they're successful. And I guess you can get caught up in looking at social media and it looks like everybody's doing more than you are, Right. But that's not always the case. And people are just showing their victories, not their challenges, or not the what they're doing. One of the things that, like I said, for one, this group sounds amazing that you're doing, and I'm sure it's helping a lot of people. And I did have another sidebar question before I get to my next question. That was, I guess, these are women who are supporting each other, but you do accept other outside help, or does the help, or the services that are provided, or that some of those people need, or is it just women provided services?
Well, I mean, if we don't find it in the group, because this is the thing, we have to build our own ecosystems, right? We cannot, if we don't know this by now, We cannot depend on others all the time to come and whatever that means, save us, help us. So the goal is not to exclude anyone. It's very inclusive. But in the forming of the circles, and each circle is usually a different area of business.
Gotcha.
So in forming the circles, not only do we help in the circle, but we help the other circles, right?
Right.
So the goal for me is to have 75 circles.
Wow.
Eventually. And so
how many to each circle? Is there kind of like a number?
There's 5 people in each circle.
Wow.
And that imbalance makes the difference, because usually if you have 2 and 2, there's not that 5th person to say, okay, let's go this way or let's go that way. So when you have 4, it's intentional.
Gotcha.
Because when you have 4 people, you may just have 2 people on each side, and you need that 5th person to kind of say, well, I'm going this way, so let's go this way in this particular instance. So it's so necessary, especially and I'm going to say this, as Black women. And the reason is, we're talking about, they have reported 400,000 Black women lost their jobs out of corporate last year. It's way more than that. I can guarantee you it's way more than that. So we have to come together.
Right.
And I won't call it a rescue, but it's a reset. And it's definitely, necessary for us to support each other. And if we get that, I'm going to tell you, I had and not to interrupt you, but I had an event on Sunday, and the women were like, oh, wow, you guys are so supportive and loving and kind, as if it was something unusual, right? But it should be the norm.
Right.
And so that's what it's very important for me to provide. Those safe spaces, those places where we can come together, and we include everyone. Anyone can come. We did have a couple men there, actually, but it is focused and built for women and women business owners.
I think it is an amazing thing to do. I think it's I think it's just and you seem to have put a whole lot of thought into how you kind of put this together and how you're putting this kind of forming the groups and everything like that, and creating the synergy there. And to your point, it is necessary. It's necessary for all our businesses right now to just focus on that. And and I always say in life, I think there's 2 ways to look at everything, and there's the way to look at things that are happening to you or that they're happening for you. So you could look at the situation as one of those 2 things. And sometimes if you look at things happening for you, then you look at it from a positive standpoint, and you kind of take something away from it, and it makes it a little bit easier to deal with when you kind of look at it through that lens, So I do think this is a time that's happening for us, not to us,
Definitely. I think it's a wonderful thing, because we as Black women, I'll say specifically, we have so much to give. And I've worked in corporate, and I've been called the tall poppy because I overdo whatever I'm supposed to do. If my sales are supposed to grow 3%, I'm growing 6%, right? If I'm, supposed to, if my company or what I'm running, my organization is at 3 million, I'm going to make 6 million. It's just one of those things that we are taught, even as children, to give more than we receive, however you want to look at that. So anytime we go into something, we're going to give it our best, right?
Yeah.
Why not do it for ourselves?
I mean, you should especially do it for yourself.
Yes.
So that's that. Like I said, I love it. I love everything. So, what would you say is kind of like the number one reason that high capacity women leaders still kind of struggle to monetize their expertise, in your opinion?
I think we're taught to overgive. And so sometimes we don't know our worth. And again, I'm talking corporate too, because that's a lot of what I do is work with women coming out of corporate. In corporate, you work for a salary. And that's usually based on some hourly that they've decided, right? But consultants don't work for hourly wage usually. It's the result that we can provide. And so that mindset, it's a change in mindset, And I'll give you an example. In anytime I'm going into a new company, I'm first looking at, and this is the consulting part, because the advisory is for the owner, the consulting is for the business.
Okay.
So anytime I'm going into a business, I'm looking at creating first a strong foundation. So I usually go into the business with someone that's an expertise in systems. And when we do that, and we look at all the SOPs, the standard operating. So when we do that, we're always trying to kind of find, where the business is lacking, right? Mm-hmm. And so building that foundation first is so important. And then we can look at scaling or growing, which is two different things, but scaling or growing the business. But we got to start with a strong foundation. And so, yeah, that's the most, for me, that's the most important part.
Yeah, I can't agree with you more on that. And wondering kind of where do you see the hustle culture harming women leaders most? Like, I guess pricing boundaries or identity or
it's just making us tired.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the worst of it. When you get up and, let's go back to what I talked about with the other way, being, doing, and then the having. In that way of life, your cup is always full because you're living from a place of purpose, right? So I wake up in the morning and I literally say, God, who do you have for me today? And in that space, it allows me to do what I'm here to do, right? And so when people ask me, what do you really do? I help women develop their next chapter. I help them write their next chapter, whatever that is. So whether that's a businesswoman who's in hustle culture and her cup is empty because she's serving from a hustle, from a half full cup or depleted cup, and helping her reset her mind, because it all starts, it's all a mindset, right? Yeah. Helping her restart her mind. It's one of those things that when we can do that, then we change the whole trajectory. Then you can talk about growing and scaling. And
you know what? You're saying a lot of things that align. You're talking really about when you're in your purpose, that law of attraction kind of kicks in, and you start attracting opportunities. And it sounds like all of those kind of components are part of that whole component. And you're saying starting with your mind. The mind is really kind of like the most important thing. And I don't know why most people don't guard what they take in. They got to guard that like a gate, especially with phones, social media, and all the other stuff, what you take in. So I'm very guarded about what I watch, what I allow myself to watch, view, listen to, because whether people realize it or not, it does impact you, it does affect you. Whatever it is you think is possible, that's possible or not possible. So,
well, even your mind does not understand the difference between what you're watching and what you're actually doing.
You know what?
And think about all the stuff we watch, right? Yeah. And when I realized that, I'm the same way. I'm very careful about what I see, what I hear, because it does affect us. And we don't realize it in our conscious mind, but definitely our subconscious. And a lot of times we even go to sleep with these things that we shouldn't, and people say, "Oh, I don't sleep well." Well, no, it's very difficult to sleep well when your mind
watch the news and then go to bed. That's the worst thing to do. Is I always, if you watch something, because you have to be informed, but you should watch something else. But I read somewhere that it's also good to direct your mind before you go to sleep and say, "Hey, while I'm sleeping, I want you to solve this problem or think about this or whatever." And I don't know how many. Something I've never done until recently, started thinking about that, and it hasn't totally worked all the time, but it can. I guess it's like anything else. The mind is a muscle,
right? It's a training, and it does work when you train your mind and you ask it a question. And you'll wake up with that answer, after a while. It may not happen immediately because it is a training, so. But I'm going to say something about purpose I think is very important, because not only is it important to do it because, it's something that, you want to do, but usually your purpose is connected to a desire in your heart. Mm. And I say, I'm not religious, I say, but I'm spiritual, and I do believe in having a relationship with God or whatever you decide to call him. When you have that desire in your heart, it's because he puts it there, right? And it's the passion that fuels your purpose. And so you're not depleted because it's something you love. And when you love something, I tell people, I don't have to be disciplined. And they say, what? I don't understand that. I don't have to be disciplined. It's just like if you like pizza, right? You don't have to be disciplined to eat pizza if you like pizza and you want pizza.
Do it.
Now, you may have to be disciplined in some other foods that you don't like, but you don't have to be disciplined in what you love. You do have to be disciplined to get up and go to a corporate job every day that you hate.
That's a good point. You know what? I think that, and I don't know how many people draw the correlation between, sometimes if we're doing something we're innately, like I said, something you love, sometimes it's hard to put a dollar amount on that. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So sometimes it's hard to quantify what that should cost because it just came to you easy, or it's just something you enjoy doing. And so sometimes that pivots. So how do you help women in that way to kind of
learn how to monetize?
Or really, it's kind of like that wasn't my question. I had a different question, but that's a question too. I think it's something that when you're an entrepreneur that's working in your space or working in that space that you're working in that space, your space. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's hard to it's sometimes hard to put a value on that,
Right. Yeah, and I think it is hard to put a value on it because it comes easy to you. But it doesn't come easy to everyone. So what I teach is because it comes easy to you, it's even more valuable, right? Because it's a gift.
Right.
That comes from the divine. And he's given it to you because you should not have to go somewhere else and do something else to work in someone else's purpose when he's given you one. And so that is, as your soul prospers, you prosper as your soul prospers, right? So when I explain it that way, it kind of clicks a lot of times that, okay, this really is what I have to actually take care of myself, create wealth, and all of these things.
And that's a purpose for it. Like you said, that is the purpose for it. I don't know that we're taught that enough to understand that that's really what you should be operating out of. Not always looking at what's, I guess to achieve some kind of nirvana or some kind of happiness. If you are working in your purpose, you're really not working. Like you said, you're kind of just getting up and saying, hey, where is the direction going or whatever, and that's got to be a wonderful thing. But I do want to ask you about like if you were directing someone and you wanted to help them find the fastest way to increase their perceived value, without pretending to be something or someone that they're not. What is your suggestion on how do you coach women through that process?
Well, I think one of the quickest ways to create authority is to write a book.
I believe that.
And once you write a book gives you two things. In our world, it means you are an authority. You are author, you are an authority. And then number two, people that do not know who you are can actually read something and see what you do know. And so I think that really is the fastest way. So I have a program called Testify. Mm-hmm. And women can, write about their story, which usually is tied to their purpose in some way that can be tied to what they do. Especially coaches and that I coach and people like that. Or they can just write about what they know, right? Mm-hmm. A testimony, I always say, And I'm a PK, by the way. So if I'm coming from that place, believe me, it is in me. So a testimony when I was growing up was the mother in the church telling us about the goodness of God and what had happened to her that week, right? But to also testify is to give an account of what you know. And if you're in court, you're testifying about what you know or what you saw. And so in both of those places, we can show our authority of what we know or what we know to be true. And so that's
I want to jump in on there. And I was, it's funny, I've been at this for 30 years. And in 2009, I started a publishing company for that very reason. I've been in sales for, a long time, and I read a bunch of self-help books that helped me get through and helped me be really good at that. So I wanted to write my own book. And because you're saying, what you just said is very, very powerful, especially if you own your own business. So I started a company called Fortune Publishing Group back in 2009. And what I did, and it's, I don't hear this all the way echo back, but you're echoing back exactly the sentiment. What we do and what I've been doing is teaching business owners how to create a book around their business, and then use that book as a brochure to grow your business. So, you mentioned the authority piece that comes with that. It is probably the best way. So I couldn't agree with you more on the best way of saying your authority, because nobody writes a book on something they don't know anything about.
Right.
You know what I mean? But there is the most powerful part of that is there's a perception also. People don't even have to read your book to feel comfortable in doing that. If you're leaving a book behind with a client on a console, it's not about selling that book for $20 or whatever. Sometimes it's a free leave behind. And that free leave behind leads to a consulting job or a contract or something like that, and way more than $20.
Right.
And so using it as a brochure, where your competition is leaving a business card or a brochure, you're leaving a book.
Right.
So
and that's awesome because, I just had my program on Sunday that you say that, and I gave my book away, which is Purpose, Peace, Power, right? And I sent it out to I probably had about 75 women in the room on Sunday. And I think it is. I think it's whether they read it or not. I hope they read it because it's transformative.
Yeah.
I hope they do.
It can be transformative just because what it does when you're a business owner, people only do business with people that they know, like, or trust.
Right.
And if they don't know you, obviously they're not going to do business with you because they don't even know who you are. But they have to like you, and then they have to trust you. And books help people to trust you because they have to trust that you know what you're talking about, that you're gonna guide them. So books are very powerful silently. Almost is the equivalent of almost having a degree. And somebody, when you're going out there for a job, that's a qualifier of sorts. And so it's a powerful thing. But also it helps you get on stuff like this. Most of the time on TV, we tell people all the time, or the authors that we publish, is that books make you media friendly. Very rarely do you see someone coming on a TV show or host and they don't have a book, because it's value or your kind of validated information that you're providing to their audience. And that's what being an author does. So I think it's great that you're encouraging them to write. But there's also a therapeutic part to that, especially if they're doing, like I said, testimony or whatever, and just getting it out there. And whatever anyone has gone through, I think we go through things not for ourselves, we go through things for the benefit of others. So writing that and putting it out there does have that purpose as well.
Right. And what's so great about this program is they can go as far as they want to go. Some people just do it because it's therapeutic or cathartic, So they just want to get it outside of themselves. And I do teach that because I feel that unless you get it outside of yourself, you're never going to let it go. And you're just continuing, especially if it's something, I'm thinking of some things that are not so pleasant, I'll say. And we're holding on to it. We're carrying it like a book bag on our back.
Bag lady.
The bag lady. Yeah. And so it just allows, them to be able to do that. Then if they want to publish the book, like you, I started a publishing company, so they're able to do that. And I think it's important because we're fighting for books that were written 80 years ago, 100 years ago, 50 years ago, what have you, even longer, than that. but who's writing now? Who's writing the stories now? And making sure they're in the library,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And so, unless we get, I mean, we can put them on Amazon, but they may never make it 100 years or 200 years from now if we do that. So I think that's important. I also think YouTube is important because hopefully it stays.
Right, yeah.
I said, I'm going to do more of that because I do want my grandchildren and great grandchildren to know who I was,
Right,
be able
right.
to hear my voice,
Right.
be able to see me, And so, just leaving these legacies now, because that's the other thing books will
Yes,
do,
yes,
is
definitely.
they will help us leave a legacy. And so I'm really adamant about that. But then we also have screenwriters in our group. We have production companies in our group.
Wow.
We put them together in this program, so someone can take that story as far as they want
Wow.
to take it. Yeah.
I think that's great. Like I said, the ecosystem that you've built and have done that. And like I said, if I could be of any help, and I'll probably talk to you off here about some of the other things that we can do to help. But
Awesome.
I do want you to kind of really go into the ACTS framework, and kind of explain that like in plain language and how it translates into, revenue streams for women.
Okay. And I just took a few notes on here. So with the ACTS program, we start with advisory. So advisory is strategic guidance for the vision, for the alignment, and the decision making. So when I'm working with a client, and I also teach my clients this because I think in every space or place, most of us are consulting in some, whether we're, like I said, building websites or real estate agents or mortgage, it doesn't matter.
Right.
We're consulting. We're helping somebody learn something that they didn't know about what they're getting ready to do. Okay. So, strategic guidance for vision, alignment, and decision making. The consulting is customized solutions to strengthen businesses, the brands, the offers, and the growth. Teaching is practical instruction that builds confidence, clarity, and capability. And the speaking is transformational messages that inspire action, leadership, and expansion. So those are the pieces of, if you want to look at the whole of what I do. And everything that I do touches one of those.
Wow. Wow. So that's kind of the whole framework that everything you do kind of works under that. And so which ACTS lane is the easiest entry point for a new entrepreneur?
Well, I really think teaching is.
Okay.
Because if you know something very well as an expert, then you should be able to teach it. Now, everybody doesn't necessarily have that gift of teaching.
Right.
But for me, I think, I'll say this, for me, it was the easiest, And then advisory, that's another level because the advisory, a lot of that comes from experience. You got to have gone through some things, right?
Yeah.
before you get to that level. Consulting is more, I think it's more of the packaged one.
Okay.
So when I'm looking at a business and I can literally see, okay, where it should go, how it should grow, the things, that will allow it to be successful. But those things might be the same for a lot of different people, if that makes sense.
Right.
The advisory, not so much, because you really are looking at that person as an individual and seeing where they are and where they need to go. And so that one, advisory, is probably the hardest, I'll say, because it definitely is about your experience. I tell people, if I'll give you an example. I've never been an alcoholic. So it would be very hard for me to teach you or tell you or advise you on how to stop drinking. Right. So when people come to me and they say, well, I need, this is the help I need, I'll say, well, that's not me, but I know who can help you. And I point them. And I think, again, that's alignment, right? I don't take clients that I cannot help, or I realize that we are not aligned in some way.
Right, right.
You know, and that may be, and I've had a lot of men clients before, and they have done very well. But I understand that women specifically, whatever we do, we're taking it with us, right? So we take home to the job. Men compartmentalize. They can have something happen at home that just blew up, and they'll go to the job like nothing ever happened. Women can't do that. Every time somebody walks in that door, she's like, right? and I mean, that's wonderful because it takes both types, right? I recently read this wonderful thing, and basically the question was to the man and the woman in the marriage, what are the most important things to you?
That's a loaded question.
But it was great because I never saw it this way. Because I've been guilty. I've been guilty of saying, men. I've been guilty. But it gave me a whole different sense of knowing. For the man, it was building his business, job, these things, wealth, creating wealth. For the woman, in this case, it was children and house,
nurturing
and children, and job was down here. Now, unfortunately, they were like 5th or 6th on their list, both of them. So they had gone into this counseling session. Their arguments were about those things in which were important to them, right? Why are you working so late? Why are you never home? Why are you always, right? Over here, why aren't you helping with the bills? Why are you spending so much money on the children? Why aren't you, right? But what I realized in that is somebody got to take care of the kids and make sure their well-being. Somebody got to bring in the money or it's all going to fall, right?
Right, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And if they could both see that,
yeah,
then the arguments would go away.
The funny thing about the way our eyes work is we really only see outward, or we should be able to see that other person's situation or what other people bring to the table. If we're not looking at that or looking for that, then it just doesn't happen. And so bringing up stuff like that is sometimes is just good to be able to just see another side of it, and you can see another side, then it just, I think that makes a big difference. So it's good that, I don't know if you're saying that that was something you just observed, that's not a service or.
No, it wasn't a service, but when I work with women, a lot of times, their biggest responsibilities, even when they're business owners, especially if they have a family, is home.
Yeah.
Right? So they bring home wherever they are. And so they don't, then that was my what I was trying to convey. They don't compartmentalize. Yeah. And so we look at the holistic woman, right? We don't just look at her as her business, because we understand that home means a lot, or whatever's going on in her life means a lot.
Yeah.
And so we may be saying, we can scale you to $1 million this year. But what may be most important to her is how much time she has off.
Right.
So that she can be with her children. So then we have to take that into consideration, not just money, or not, that's not necessarily success for her. Right. So that's why I work with women specifically, because their needs are different.
I agree with that. And so, what would you say your kind of approach, I guess, with everyone? It's about a brand and brand positioning. The market can seem crowded and everyone sounds the same. So how do you kind of help people kind of position their brand to be something unique or different when it seems like a space is crowded?
Well, I think, again, all of this goes back to purpose. Because when you work in your purpose, you're going to rise to the top. Because it's you, right? It's not you chasing. Let me go back and share with you when I talk about, purpose and what the opposite of it is. So we go to school pretty much from the time we can really understand someone is telling us to do what we have, what we desire. We have to do what we desire to have. What brings that? So we start with have, what we want to have in life. And we do what we have to do to have what we want to have in life, right? And then we become whatever we have to become to do what we have to do to have what we have to have.
Wow, I like it.
That's chasing. And it's the thing that keeps us drained in this country. We are probably the tiredest, overworked people in the world because we're chasing, right? Start over here. Let's start with be. Who are you? And the purpose is not the doing. The purpose is the being. Because I've had I used to own a financial planning company. I was always in purpose, right? I ran multi-million-dollar boutiques on the Strip. I was always in purpose. So it doesn't matter what you're doing.
Right.
It matters who you are.
Right.
Because if you can be who you are and wake up every morning and just be who you are, it's a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
The tiring doesn't happen. The empty cup doesn't happen. And you serve people. I didn't even get to the fourth one. So it's be, do, have, serve. You serve. You don't serve before you have. Right?
Yeah.
You got to serve in the overflow. And when you serve in the overflow, your cup is never empty.
That's very profound way to put that. I like it. So, like, if you find someone or you're working with someone and they kind of feeling stuck, because they're trying to figure out that have, be, all that other stuff, serve, what do you kind of like diagnose first? Do you kind of focus on mindset, what their offer is, messaging, or execution? Like, what's the strategy?
You got to start with mindset. See, you can't execute against the mind. It won't work. You can possibly do it for a while, but after a while, you're going to go right back to mindset. Wherever your mind is creating your life, right? Your thoughts are creating your life. Everything is created twice, first in the mind and then in the physical world, in the physical plane. That computer was created in the mind of someone. This microphone, this dress I have on was created in the mind of someone first. So we have to start with mindset. And it can be tough because we're programmed, right? So it takes some deprogramming and some reprogramming. And it can take a few months before we can even get to execution. Yeah.
No, I love it. You're just saying a lot of really, I don't know if you ever hear yourself. I don't know if do you ever listen to yourself?
I do.
Do you really?
And sometimes I say, wow.
Yeah.
And I'm like, did I say that?
Yeah.
That's why I know it's coming from somewhere else.
No, I'm hearing that. Believe it. No, and I'm enjoying it. And I hope other people who are watching, I'm pretty sure people are going to listen to this or watch it and get some really powerful things out of it, man or woman, as I think there's a lot of that could be taken away because some of this is universal, but I think it's awesome that you are focusing specifically. So if you're kind of like we're in your mind, like what's the most important boundary you had to set to protect your growth and kind of what did that kind of cost you? Sometimes, having to set boundaries have, cost sometimes.
Yeah, I recently had to do that. And it is, we want to serve everyone. But at some point, sometimes we realize because of boundaries, we have to set boundaries. And boundaries are good. We kind of look at them as things that, that are maybe they're not so good. But boundaries are good because if you know my boundaries, I want you in my life. Think about it this way. I want you in my life. So if I set the boundary, you know where not to go.
Right.
But if you go past the boundary and I haven't shared that boundary with you, and now I'm hurt or upset or, trying to figure out the exit strategy, then that's my fault. So Boundaries, yeah. So you have to set boundaries. And there, if you think about it that way, because you want people around you, you
Right.
want people you want to be able to interact and, but if you just allow no boundaries, at some point, they're going to offend you.
You know, I think it's a great. And you're teaching this to women, right?
Yes.
Because sometimes women expect us to know, to just know things that we don't know, unless you tell them. So this is great that you're having people establish that, because it's important for people to just say, hey, kind of, I think if people do know your boundaries, it lets you know pretty much who is in your space, because if someone knows your boundaries and they're still crossing them, it tells you a lot about that person, and you now have a decision to make, So I think it's great when you kind of put it out there, but if you never do, then you kind of really never know, or you just don't really get the level set and kind of decide who the people that are in your life, because you just never set, or just kind of tell people. I have kids myself, and we're talking about purpose and all these other things, and I feel like I've been operating my purpose, and sometimes you still can get tired working in your purpose.
Oh yeah. Well, you just get tired because you're a human being.
Yeah.
You're going to get tired. You're supposed to, because tired says go rest, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna Google rest when we get out of here. What is that? I think when you are doing, like I said, what your purpose is, and I had to have a conversation with some of my kids about, I think you mentioned being an alcoholic. Some people have an alcoholic parent or a drug addict parent or a parent that has an issue, and we're sometimes people more forgiving of that parent than a workaholic parent or somebody who's doing that kind of stuff, or just really, or not looking at it as operating their purpose in that way. So sometimes people can kind of have an adverse effect to that. But I have learned, as you get older, you just start realizing that you are who you are. Like I said, it's important to know who you are, and not only to know who you are, but to embrace that and to just say, this is me. This is what you got. Hey, it's like one of those take it or leave it kind of situations, or just say, at least let people understand and know. So I think it's important that you're having people kind of at least understand that about themselves, and working in your purpose. It's nothing more fulfilling than doing what you love, because really you're not working, you're just doing what you love every day.
Right.
And if you could do that every day, that is an amazing thing.
Yeah.
We're getting down to believe it or not, we're almost an hour.
I can imagine.
Crazy.
Yeah.
This is like, well, it's been a great conversation. I feel like I can just sit here and talk to you the rest of the day, Do you ever coach clients on how to, or to stop kind of like over-delivering? We talked about over-delivering sometimes for underpaying clients and doing it without guilt. Have you kind of, do you ever kind of touch on that or coach through that? And sometimes as entrepreneurs, we find ourselves in those situations where sometimes we're just conditioned. There's a thing that how we do one thing is how we do everything, So
I do. And sometimes they're able to do that right away, and a lot of times they're not. So again, we go back to mindset. I had a gentleman, this is funny, I had a gentleman recently, he was telling me what he did, kind of creating an ecosystem, computer ecosystem. And he said, oh, I charge $5,000. And I said, why don't you charge $50,000? And he said, it was foreign to him. He really didn't know what to say. I said, okay, the next time, charge $50,000. So we left each other. We were at a networking event, and he called me. He said, you're not going to believe this. And I said, what? He said, you told me you charge $50,000, right? He said, I was in a co-working space, and I was on my phone, and I was talking to a potential client, and a gentleman overheard me, got off the phone, and he said, hey, can you tell me a little bit more about that? And I told him about it, and then he said, well, how much do you charge? He said, and immediately your words came to my mind, and I didn't know this guy. I just said, 50,000. And he said, oh, he said, well, that's kind of expensive. He said, well, I do this, and this, and then you get me concierge, you get me, in the human form whenever you need. And he said, oh, okay. And so
He said yes. I said, okay, did you get the contracts ready? And he said, well, I'm doing that now. But I'm just ready. I said, listen, you know, he said, yeah. It was very difficult for him to accept that. And so sometimes, yeah, it's a mind, again, it's a mindset. That's why we have to work there first, because it's not that it wasn't worth that amount. He just could not see himself receiving that. And a lot of times it is in the receiving.
I think also goes back to what we were talking about earlier. Is that sometimes things that come easy to us, we don't put a larger value onto because we just obtain that information easy ourselves. So as opposed to going to school for something and you're taught that XYZ knowledge costs XYZ, but if something is kind of naturally gifted to you, you just kind of have a natural gifting for something. Sometimes it is hard to put a dollar on it. But what I have found, I don't know if you found this out to be true for you, but I think the clients who you charge that $50,000 over the $5,000, you have a better relationship with them because they don't bug you as much. They don't. It's a weird thing that when clients pay more, it's the clients that you're trying to help financially that just really.
So it's perceived value. It literally is perceived value. And so we talked about this. I was talking to someone yesterday, and water is water. And you may have heard this before, but water in the gas station is a different price than it is in a grocery store, than it is in a high-end hotel or restaurant. Same water, it could be even the same brand, but you're going to pay a different price because of the environment. So you, as an ecosystem, your environment has a lot to do with how much you can charge. If you don't believe it, if you don't have the confidence in yourself that you can charge this, then the perceived value, the value isn't there. And it can be just that. It doesn't have to be anything that you're doing different than the next one.
You know what, Tina, this has been an amazing conversation. I feel like this is deja vu. I'm sorry. But listen, this has been an amazing conversation. And honestly, if I'm being honest, I have gotten so much from this exchange. So I just really appreciate you coming out. For people who want to work with you or refer clients to you, I think you have an amazing program. Who's your ideal target audience? And which type of women leaders or professionals are you best positioned to support right now?
Well, my target audience is women 40 plus. I work with women 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s. I even have one client that's 81 years old. And she's currently writing a book, and we're going to take her on the speaker series. Wow. And she's a master's level professor of English, wow. by the way. But yeah, we're helping her write her book right now. And so, it's just women who are ready to write that next chapter, whatever that means. If that means scaling their business, starting a business, starting an organization, even starting a nonprofit, becoming a speaker, becoming a writer, we're able to help them.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So, like I said, it's been a great conversation. I want to close with this. Alignment isn't soft, it's strategic. When your purpose and strategy match, you stop forcing results, you start attracting them. This week, take your calendar and your bank statements and compare them. Do they really tell the same story? If not, it's time to realign, because the goal isn't just about being busy. The goal is to build business that pays and that lasts. So, Tina, what final advice would you leave with every woman leader who wants profitability without burnout and legacy without losing themselves?
As we've talked about most of this time together, I would say purpose. Purpose is so important. Purpose is fueled by your passion. And when you are passionate about what you do, everything is like play. We're not working. Yeah. We're not working. We're not hustling. And hustle culture creates burnout. So I would say, live in your purpose.
Wow, great stuff. So, as Tina said, today's episode was a reminder that alignment is really the shortest path to authority and profitability. Tina, you brought kind of clarity and authority and strategy, and the kind of stuff is, like I said, is really great for people who are leaders to stop performing and really start building. So thank you for your work and for helping people create legacies rooted in authenticity and sustainable successes. So like I said, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. For our listeners who want to learn more about alignment over hustle and the profitable legacy blueprint for women leaders, where can they find you online?
Well, you can find me at Tina V. Wallace on all social media. Tina V as in Victor Wallace. And you can also email me at info@onyxgoldgroup.com. Or you can check out our website at onyxgoldgroup.com. And there's a link at the bottom. You can schedule a 30-minute free session with me. I would love to have you.
Awesome. So again, thanks for sharing, Tina. And for all of you out there tuning in, if you want to keep up with me, Max Fortune, and stay connected with the Mind Your Business podcast, you can find me on all social media platforms at Mind Your Biz Expert, as well as on YouTube and all major podcast platforms. Be sure to subscribe, follow, and keep the conversation going. We'd love to hear from you. Submit your ideas, questions, topics, engage with our community, and let's continue building together. Until next time, stay sharp, stay focused, and always mind your business. See you in the next episode.